Hello, 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 everyone. Happy Tuesday. Hope everyone had a fantastic day. Mike Arnold here, co-founder of Path Trading Partners, along with Bob Iacchino. Bob, it looks like your brick wall fell down in the background.
Didn't fall. I took it down.
We'll bring Bob on in a minute. Looks like comments are working again, so that's going. Turnaround Tuesday it was. Why is that on a happy face? You got to go with that short term or the short term trends. The cycle's up until we get the next sell signal, and then the move back down. Hello, hello, well, waka waka. And if you don't have a trade, you sit on your hands. Hello, what a buying frenzy! There was a big buying frenzy today. Good afternoon, and I'm seeing repeatedly the bottom's in, the bear market's over. Bob, did you know the bear market's over? So that's going to be my question to you when I bring you on. What's going on with the Netflix BS? Well, they missed on revenue, they beat on EPS, they only lost 900K subscribers versus their guidance of 2 million, and they guided lower, and it's up big after hours. And yes, the
That's an
6%
interesting thing.
outside the what was that, Bob?
That's an interesting thing about
Hold on.
them losing
Wait,
fewer
let me get you
subscribers.
on, Bob. Hold on. I just got to bring on Bob. There's Bob.
I'm here.
You're here. Ha.
Yeah. No, what I was going to say was it's an interesting thing because the one of the things I know some people personally that they were getting ready to cancel Netflix, but Netflix did something I think was genius is they stretched Stranger Things into 2 quarters. So there were actually people who wanted to they want to wait till Stranger Things was over. So it's possible that those two together are a closer number to what should have been a 1 quarter loss. It's a stretch, but it's possible that that's the case. So I just wanted to point that out. That's something that streaming services should probably keep doing if they, it's Elon Muskish to do that. I don't know that it was deliberate, but I think it was very smart.
Well, you know what I've started doing for that they do that. I just wait till the whole thing's dropped and then watch the. I then subscribe for like that month and binge watch it and cancel again.
Cancel again, yeah.
Yeah, because you know what? If they're gonna play that game, I have an easy solution. I don't need to see it day one. I have no friends, so nobody's gonna spoil it for me.
Hey, Sashi, there's no chance Kramer was right. I don't even remember what he said.
Let
So,
me get through. Davey, good afternoon. Yes, people think it's bullish. Well, yeah, we're still not at the bottom. You know
no.
when we'll be at the bottom? When, and I don't see it yet, when, what is it? Who's Mr. I forgot his name now. Mr. Stocks always go up guy. When he stops showing up, we'll be at the bottom. Uh,
It's funny because, like, people, and I'm not saying this is not a good rally, and I'm not saying that I know for a fact. It's my opinion that this is not the overall bottom. But you're literally talking about, I mean, if you go from the lows to today, it's not even 10% higher. Not even 10%. And I'm looking at the S&P. Not even 10% higher from the lows to today. So the idea that that somehow erases a bear market, um, I just think that's silly.
it's 7.5%, Bob. Bear market done.
Yeah, I'm looking at the futures, and so they obviously continue to rally into the close, and that's 8.46% with the rally into the close.
I didn't even get that. I measured out the futures. I didn't even get that high. By the way, let's see where we sit here. Oh boy, we have Netflix. We already talked about Netflix after hours. That was the only big thing I was watching. If anybody else wants to get into something after Bob's here, tomorrow morning, not a bunch of stuff that I'm looking at. Tomorrow after the close is Tesla. So if anybody wants some of those earnings, there's not specific. Where did my other window go? Oh boy, here we go. Tomorrow, not a lot on the news front either. We got all of your crude info. You got some more existing home sales, but the market's just shrugging that off. It's again Thursday and Friday backloaded. You can see your heat map here. Everything to the moon today. This was a good, also a good short squeeze day and just buy everything. Fed watch still at 75 basis points. and we're nearing out of negative gamma territory, so continuing rallies will have a dampening effect. So that's where the hedging from the big boys are, they sell into rallies, they buy into dips. So it's more of a dampening than an amplifying effect. All right. All right, let's see. Hey, options 22. Let's I lit the Bob bat signal. Waka thinks you're spot on, Bob. So there you go. Waka and Bob are in agreement about Netflix and the stretching out of Stranger Things. I've got through half of an episode so far. I'm I'm the antithesis of binge watch. We can look at Amazon later. So what what's your take so far? Because on anything, Bob.
on on
What's
anything.
on anything, life in general. Like hey,
um, all right, so I have a similar take, and we talked about this last week that stocks will go up without any sort of impetus to go down. And I still think, let me rephrase this, I still hope we get a big sell off through the rest of earnings season. I really do. I don't think stocks have priced in the recession. I don't think we're avoiding the recession. Europe is about to get way worse. You know, people realize we're at the end of July. Winter for Europe is right around the corner. And if they can't heat their homes, you ever been in somebody's house in the winter in Germany? I mean, if they can't heat their homes, that economy could go into a depression. The ECB is talking about 25 basis points and some sort of interest rate mitigation tool, which I don't really know what that means other than yield curve control. So yield curve control has been in effect in Japan with the ban that they have the JGBs in, right? Now I'm getting a little in the weeds here, I know, but bear with me a second. The JGB is not allowing their 10-year to trade above 0.25% on yield, okay? It continually does that intraday. As you look over to the left of this chart, right, we're right there. It just kept popping. It continually does it. And then when when the Bank of Japan does operations during their day session, they bring it right back down and they do their operations with a maximum rate of 0.25%. That's called yield curve control. Everyone I talk to that's smarter than me in this stuff says that the risk mitigation tool is yield curve control by another name. Look at what happened to the yen when the Bank of Japan started yield curve control. Okay, it was basically last February is when they announced it. Okay, this is the dollar yen. So the yen weakened dramatically. Okay, so the euro's weakening now, right? And they haven't even announced it yet. So if they announce their mitigation tool, which is going to be yield curve control, and a 25 basis point hike instead of a 50, I suspect we'll see 95 in the euro. Maybe not right away, but in a short period of time, because when you control the yield curve, the currency suffers. So take that one awful step further. We get an inverted yield curve here. Inflation is not tamed because the Fed pivots to easy monetary policy again, because we're going into a recession here. And then they decide to implement risk mitigation tools. What happens to the dollar? Now we're back in that thing, Mike, it had to be 10 years ago maybe, where we were experiencing a race to the bottom with the major currencies.
mm-hmm.
We're back to that now. And that is also bad for stocks unless we're losing the race to the bottom. So there's a lot of reasons to be bearish stocks. Having said that, if you look at the S&P chart, we just broke out of like a 2-week horizontal channel, maybe 10 days, something like that.
Well, this is actually, yeah, it's how many days is that? One,
Kind of
two,
horizontal, right?
5, 6, 7, 8. It's
10 days, 2 weeks, what is it?
It's over a couple weeks because this is trading days, so it's
Okay.
over a couple weeks.
So we just broke out of that. So now let's see if the 50 breaks or budges, or if we go back into the channel and we got a little shake and bake going on. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm still watching. What I'm keeping an eye on, here's what I'm keeping an eye on, especially next week. We got the Fed meeting. We got a lot of tech earnings coming, especially with guidance. Like one
Hmm.
of the things with Netflix is I'm surprised it kept its pop up after hours after they guided horribly for Q3. Uh,
Hmm.
Disaster guidance, but it's just shrugging that off. But if you get a lot of tech firms even hitting earnings, but and their revised lower earnings, but then guiding way lower, we could see some interesting price action. And we got weekly cycles at the top in everything, and daily cycles getting to the top and getting back into overbought conditions. So we're getting, I mean, this nice little relief rally, which I actually love because it gets to establish new short positions on a reversal signal at a better price. You gotta. That's why bear market rallies are so wonderful because would I rather put on a bearish position down here or up here? I'd rather put it on up here once I get a signal to do it. It's you get better reward to risk if you don't have to put it on at the lows. It's just
So here's my question for Christoph.
here,
If you want,
let's get the statement up here. But the EU has much worse inflation than Japan. If the currency weakens further, inflation will worsen. The ECB can't risk that.
so the ECB currently does not have as bad inflation in the US. So the counter to that is, well, the US isn't risking it, right? They did 75 basis points. Some people are saying 100, although the probabilities keep dropping. But the difference is the ECB is a monetary union. It's not a fiscal union. So you have differing levels of debt, differing levels of problem. EU inflation is 8.8%, but it's much higher in places like Greece and Italy and much lower in places like Germany. The issue is you have winter coming and you have Russia not wanting to send natural gas. I mean, again, I know we're in July. We got a month and a half, 2 months of heat, but Russia's not sending them natural gas, and the U.S. apparently we're in a climate emergency. We're not going to build any refinery soon to send liquid natural gas over there. So inflation is almost assured, Christoph. It's almost assured that it's going to get worse, regardless of what the ECB does. They're going to raise rates and they're not going to reduce the demand for natural gas heat in Germany in January. So it's really bad. Like it's really, really bad over there. I hope you have moved here. But the overall situation there is I don't it's very rare that I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, but the one I see is like a pinhole in the
You're
medium term.
you're always you make me look. I mean, I'm Eeyore compared to you, and if you
True
only see a
story.
pinhole of light, then
True
I'm
story.
looking at a full eclipse.
So, Christoph, I guess the question becomes, is the ECB going to? So they're talking about 25 to 50, and most of them say 25. It would seem to me that they're not really looking to fight inflation that bad. Year over year at the last reading is 8.8%. And they're talking about 25 basis points? It doesn't, they're not winning anybody over. They're not winning confidence.
Well, there you go. So, all right? What are your thoughts on because it was like, hey, we're going to start up the pipeline again, the Nord Stream pipeline
Mhm.
again. First, there was a forced manure yesterday messages that came out, but then today it was we're going to restart the pipeline.
He's gonna restart it until winter gets closer. That's honestly my guess. I mean,
Oh yeah,
look,
there'll be
unless you
another
yeah,
problem.
unless you think like Ukraine is surrendering or Russia's backing down before winter. I mean, I read two separate articles. I don't read much about the war, to be honest, but I read two separate articles. One said that Western weapons are really causing problems for Russians at the front, in the front lines. But the second article said that weapons are coming from several different countries and they don't really correlate with each other well. So it's been a problem for the Ukraine defense forces to figure out which are the better weapons because they have to use the same weapons. They can't use some weapons in conjunction with others. Not a military strategist. I don't know why that would be true or not true. my father-in-law is not here right now. He was a military guy. Maybe he would know. But um, so I think this thing either needed to end quickly or it's going to drag on for years. So that's what I worry about more than anything is how bad is it going to get in Europe? And I think, Christoph said they have to choose between two evils. Um, I think they're going to choose to let inflation run because there's a lot they can't do about the driver of inflation, more so than the U.S., much worse than the U.S.
On nat gas, we would actually make it barely through the winter if the pipeline goes online and Russia supplies from Thursday honor. I guess it
Onwards,
honors they
onwards.
what they supplied during the last few weeks. That if the pipeline doesn't go back online, we'll be without nat gas during December.
Well, I heard it's going back on, but that doesn't mean they're not going to turn it back off. I read, and Christoph, correct me if I'm wrong, or if you even know, I read that Germany has 1 month of supplies. But remember, liquefied natural gas gets turned back into natural gas and stored, and eventually it degrades. So I know much more about crude oil degradation than I do about natural gas degradation, but I believe has to be used within 6 months. So that covers winter. And then it just starts to degrade and leak, and you have all kinds of issues. We have so much natural gas here. There's so much in Qatar. The fact that they relied on Russia, well, whatever. That doesn't matter. Doesn't matter now.
Well, speaking of nat gas, the inverse head and shoulders is stuck at the first target. There we go. And any thoughts on crude? Because crude, hit the first target on the our double bottom. So that's raising the stop. Any other thoughts on crude and the rally with crude? Cycles, by the way, not at the top yet and not anywhere close to overbought and not even to the other end of the rotation zone.
Yeah, I do have thoughts from a fundamental perspective. So if you look at that chart, the day with the long wick, the 14th, that's when President Biden arrived to fist bump Mohammed bin Salman, and there is no sign of them increasing production, none that I've seen anyway. So here goes that little grind again. Now we are going to get some demand destruction, but there's not enough, especially now with people not feeling rich. There's not enough. Companies are leaning way too much toward full electric vehicles and not enough toward hybrid vehicles, which, for every one battery, you could make like anywhere from 5 to 10 hybrids and
Oh, you
save
read
more gas.
The Doomberg
I
article.
read the Doom. Yeah, I love that one.
Doomberg's
Um,
really good. If anybody doesn't
yeah,
follow
that
Doomberg, or
convinced
I was just going to say, if
that
people don't
convinced
follow,
me. By the way, I was hoping to find a way to do all electric, and now I'm not on that train at all. I want to support hybrids because it's one of the transitions. Anyway, so demand destruction, I think, is going to be mild, if at all. You'll start to see much more demand destruction if you start to see the unemployment rate ramp up. Because people won't be driving to work, driving to restaurants, driving to as many grocery stores and things like that. And we haven't seen that yet. So I think right now, if you're looking at stable demand, we're still in the midst of demand for flights and for automobile fuel, still at the height of the summer driving season. Um, so I'm not bullish yet because I've told people for days that I turned negative crude oil, and I did. I mean, I talked about it on TV on I think the 28th or so of June, the end of June, that I turned negative. I'm staying negative. I want to see what happens with this weekly double, but from a perspective of, you know, I don't fundamentally, I don't know where the demand destruction is going to come from. Maybe they can keep prices stable while we exit the summer driving season. I don't know.
Toyota
Look at
hybrids,
AB's.
2 kilowatt hour
Yeah.
battery, average electric cars 80 kilowatt hours. It's sad, and I actually I agreed with
You've
Doomberg.
had hybrids and all electrics, Mike, right? You've had both.
I've had both, and I've wanted, and I looked around for before, even a couple years ago, before I got my last car, I wanted a PHEV, the plug-in hybrid, that
Mhm.
gets, you can get 30 to 50 miles around
Yeah.
town, and then the
The one
rest,
I'm looking at gets 44.
and that would have been perfect for me, but there were so few of them available, and literally it was go to California and buy like the RAV4. Now the RAV4's got wider distribution, but I mean, there's a lot more over in Europe of the PHEVs, but they never really were running here. But it's fantastic because a lot of people, especially if you plug in at night at your house, you can literally do your commute or your whatever you do each day in a car on all electric. And then if you need to go farther, you got the gas. If I need to run up or road trip it or something else, I got the gas as a backup. Or if I go in and there's all the charging stations are full, I don't really have to sit there for an hour.
Then there's another. I read an article today. A young woman in Clearwater, Florida, bought a 2014 all electric. I want to say it was a Ford Focus, but don't quote me on the model. It was definitely a Ford, and it had 60,000 miles on it. So her father paid $11,000 for it. She drove it for 4 months, and then it just stopped working. We got into the dealership. Battery was done for, was dead. So they quoted her 14 grand to replace it. She paid 11 for the car.
Yeah,
Then
that's
they found out when her father said, "Well, let's do it, and then maybe we sell it and see what we can get for it." Ford stopped making that car. They don't have any batteries, so they spent $14,000. The car's dead, just won't move. Nothing they can do about it.
well, you hear about the older Teslas
So
that
you really have to buy new, right? I mean, if you're going all electric, you have to buy new.
yeah, and that's why I pretty much lease electric because or something because if you have a battery issue, whew. All right, so you're still bearish on crude. Again, I'm short
Slightly,
term
yeah.
bullish on crude, and then we'll see. What else? What else? What else? What else? We had the all right. We got the rally in the euro. Nice little rally in the euro. Now we have a potential little short term mini double top that was triggered for a potential little pullback move. But you listed. Do you think the euro is going to drop back to parity?
I think, yeah, I think after this meeting, but it all, I mean, this sounds stupid. I sound like one of those TV people. We'll have to wait and see. It all really depends on what the ECB does and says, obviously. So to me, this is more about the dollar falling, this move right here. The dollar's weakened substantially since the 100 basis points has lost steam. You look at like the DXY, it's down quite a bit, but
Okay.
it's down, it's getting support levels. It's not like it's getting to bear market levels or anything.
Nope. All right. Let's see. Any other thoughts going into anything before? I mean, there's nothing else. There's nothing really coming out tomorrow, so everything's gonna be on Thursday and Friday, and it's really Friday with the.
No, we do need to look. We got the Bank of Japan tomorrow night. So there's still people that believe they have to step away from their yield curve control. I don't believe for a minute they will, but there are still people that believe in sometime in the next 4 or 5 meetings. Um, so one of my friends, who's a big Japan watcher, said that they're going to step away from yield curve control by expanding the allowable band. I don't know that that's quite stepping away, but he claims the market would view it as stepping away. So we'll see. He watches that stuff a lot more than I do. So we do have the BOJ meeting, but that's it.
Then we have when's the ECB is Thursday?
Yeah, ECB's Thursday.
Yeah.
Speaking of Thursday, so we record the podcast on Friday. So I'd like everybody's input here. But the guest that we have, Kenny Polcari, who clearly didn't see my tweet making fun of him years ago. But Kenny Polcari is going to be the guest, and he can't do Friday. He asked if we could do Thursday. So we're launching the show at 3:45. The recording of the show, it'll still come out over the weekend sometime. But I told them I have a hard stop at like 4:20. Um, so if we run long, I may be a little late to this.
It's okay.
All right, so that's going to be kind of my go-to if I have something that pops up. Um, the times that I'm supposed to be here, I will let Mike know, and then Mike, maybe you can go through the charts, and I can just join when I join,
Yep.
and we'll see
I
if there's anything.
I can
Is that
input.
cool?
I I am not that stuck in my ways yet.
I just feel like it's better than me canceling. So,
No,
but
that's
you
fine.
guys tell me. If you'd rather I cancel, I'll just go fuck myself. It's
I
fine.
think I can entertain people. Look, I'm partially see-through Mike. I can entertain people. Uh,
Uh,
and with that, no one will drive an electric Ferrari. Would you drive an electric Ferrari,
he's
Bob?
right. No, I
Would you
barely
drive
want to
a
drive one.
partially electric Ferrari, like with?
Yes, but I barely want to drive a paddle shifter Ferrari. That was a hard enough hurdle to get over.
All right. Well, there we go. We've heard from Bob, so all right, and there's
I'm
nothing
out.
expected to come out, so we should be smooth sailing at least to Thursday. With that, we'll
Yep.
probably crash tomorrow.
So anyway, I'm going to talk to you guys on Thursday, whatever time I get there.
All right. Thank you for being here, Bob.
See you guys.
All right, everyone. So where do we sit? Where do we sit? Again, no major news coming out. Could somebody put back in the chat to make sure it's still working for me? We finally hit that 50 day exponential with the prior highs. Cycles not yet at the top and not yet rolled over. Again, I'm not seeing anything in the chat. Boy, this just frustrates me if this broke again. Oh boy, let me see here. Let me see. Where do I? Come on. Not seeing any more comments. So if I missed something, I'm sorry. I hold on one second.
Don't advertise.
Oh, now it's gonna make me sit through this. All right. Yep, I just comments froze again. Jeez. All right. Sorry I didn't get to the rest of the comments. Let's just see. I'm going through them now. Uh, boy. Yeah. Hey, strategy. Thanks for saying that. Bob does care about being here. So, can you later in the stream, Christoph? Please point out XLK is actually a valid double bottom on daily, or the third low invalidates it. Can you please BNGO? All right, let me get to that. Some of those things. Now I'm gonna have to glance out again because the thing froze. All right, short term. Again, no topping pattern yet. Wouldn't be surprised to see some minor pullbacks. The pullback area I'm watching for overnight 39.20 to, let me bump these levels up, about 39.08 on the S&P. That's where we sit there. Just want to update some of these. So, but then we could get a pause here with it being against the 50 on the daily and at these prior highs. But if we do march higher, I now have updated the levels. We have a major cluster at 39.90 roughly. And then the next level is 40.27. Going to really focus on this 39.90 with this rising channel flag pattern. That's going to be the next thing, and then see how the cycles look. So it's just short-term trading with the trend. Again, there's no short-term bearish patterns there just yet. So that's what I'm watching overnight. By the way, your longer-term support, I mean, it's in a support area right around, this 39.08. You can even go a little higher than that if you look at the daily up to 39.15, but this is a support area on the pullback. And that would be on a short-term pullback. How did that get messed up? There we go. NASDAQ, again, we had the next target here, this 12.312 area. You can see if I move these out of the way. You can see right there. On a continued move higher, we have 12,418, 12,415 area, and you can see I have the channel on there. Also, major support level on a pullback is about 12,175. Minor support level would be roughly about 12,200. That's the key thing. Watching that with, especially with the short-term cycles pegged at the top again, but they can continue a bit more. So we did break above. I'm not watching for a major sell-off unless something really strange happens in the world, but we could see a pause at least overnight before a resumptive push higher. Where else do we sit? Dow, everything's trading in the same channel. By the way, S&P, just for the sake of talking about something, we broke above this morning. We broke above that key area. I already took off those lines, and then we've got that breakout, and then the retest of what I was watching for this morning, and then we just relentlessly traveled on up. You see, holding that 5-minute rotation zone, and then always remember to switch to that 15-minute around or just before lunch because it just hugged that 15-minute the rest of the day. Just wanted to touch on that for people who are trying to learn some of the patterns I utilize. Dow nearing those most recent highs. I just want to see where the 62.5 is from this. The 62.5 on the next area. So the next minor I'm watching with the Dow is about 32, and then 32,100, and then 32,185 to the upside. Major support coming in at about 31,500. Minor support coming in about 31.6. So those are my two key levels there. Again, everything's trading in lockstep. Russell hitting the other side of the channel. Next key area I'm watching for the Russell is 1815. Finally filling this full gap right there. So that gap fill is done. Rich, I saw this is from way earlier. I'm still not getting comments. But I agree, we're going to roll over again at some point. You just got to trade the patterns until we do. What else? Crude, we already touched on, but I'm still playing the short-term patterns to the upside. Next target is 102.04, but this is definitely the stop raise. So the stop raise, the major stop level is on a close below 94.72. Natty gas already pausing. Pretty much an inside bar from yesterday, which is a pause pattern so far. On a pullback, I'd be watching this key close from the 15th. That key close is 7016. We already talked about dollar index. VIX still, I really need it to break down below this 24 level to get even more sustained rally mode other than just the cycles pushing stuff up. VIX is still unable to break this key major low bottom. So if that starts breaking down, then I get into slightly even more bullish mode. Let's see, Bitcoin hitting that 50 finally and the other end of the channel. Gonna watch, if we do pull back, watch for about 22,500, 22,640 support level. You don't really want that to break in the short term. Where else do we sit? Lauren, really? I wish I could put this up. Lauren says, hey, Mike, stocks only go up. Where is TomTom stock? Where is my good friend TomTom stock? You thought he'd be here today. Stocks only go up. But that's where we sit with that now. We have Netflix. Then I'll look at some other stuff. Netflix, again, gap up. Even with that crap, I'm actually watching for a gap fill play then once the NASDAQ starts rolling over. So that's going to be a gift right there. Just bouncing, stalling out at the 50 today, then the gap up. Next target area, if it continues to run tomorrow, is about 221. And then you're looking about, let's see, your next key target, 221. And then your next major target, if it does continue, but I'd take that one with a grain of salt, would be about 251. Because I'd start doing some harmonic projections, but I'm going to wait for a little pausing area, especially with cycles getting to the top on Netflix. Yeah, earnings were worse than last Q. Sorry, I'm looking at my third screen over here to see the comments from the live stream. So I'm watching the live stream for comments. Yeah, the numbers weren't good for Netflix, but this is the kind of market we're in. It's buy everything for the short-term rally. So don't discount that. What other things did you want me to look at? XLK. XLK. Where is it? There it is. XLK, yes, that is still valid. Christoph was wondering if XLK is a valid double. It's valid on the daily and the weekly. I prefer the weekly pattern, but the aggressive trigger would be on the daily, and it did trigger today. So could tech run some more into major earnings next week? Yeah. The first area I'm though watching is for this key closing price of 136.33 for the gap fill. Oh, by the end of the week, especially. Above there, my major target, and I'm going to get even more aggressive than I normally would be because it's a breakdown zone and we have tech earnings next week, really getting into it. This 138.91. Breakdown zone, first target. I'd rather play this cautionary in the overall macro sense with the, in a bear market rally than leaving a, not pressing too much for the higher prices. If it continues, I'd rather have a smaller position for continued higher prices and be conservative with the stop. So, and then we wanted, I think I remember Amazon. Oops. I didn't want it on that one. I want it on this one. Amazon, again, this is why you learn to utilize the harmonics, stalling out just in front of the 62.5. If you get a close above the 62.5, which is roughly 119.10, then your next major targets are 122.40 and potentially 125.73. If you want to put the harmonics, the projection harmonics on there also, that reinforces your minor one, which I'd use to raise a stop if you're long, is about 120.06, and that just reinforces that 75% harmonic. That 120, I'd actually make it a range of 122 to about 122.40 for your levels above there. And where you really don't want it to drop below at this point is about 112.44 without doing your short-term harmonics off of there. What else do we have? I'm just going back through. We got to check on NVIDIA too, just because that's that double in play. NVIDIA, do not ignore this next target. Again, continued play higher on NVIDIA. So this is definitely a stop raise. I'd even use a more aggressive stop on NVIDIA at this point because you get a move below this low of 160.04. You got the gap fill below and you're up in this prior toppy area. I would be surprised if it doesn't at least hit the next target, but that's really my major target for it because, again, I'm playing it conservatively with the 50 overhead, this prior high in that area, and the rollover zone between the 50 and the 62.5. All right, I think I saw one. KW Web. What is K-Web? CSI China Internet ETF. Don't trade it. Doesn't mean you can't trade it. I just don't. Only thing I'd be concerned about here is it's confirmed but not triggered a double. This is a confirmed but not triggered double. So if you roll over again also, it doesn't get to a triple until around 33 again. 32, 85, 33. So until this forms a triple, I'd be wary of another potential rollover play. Cycles are moving up on the daily, and not at the bottom on the weekly. So you got a mismatch of cycles. But I'd be very wary of the potential double on if it rolls down, fill the gaps, and then triggers this. It would not be any long play. On a continued long play, you still have a gap left behind in a breakdown zone at about 32, and that would not invalidate the potential double or a confirmed double, not yet triggered double top. So if it did rally, I'd really watch for your continued resistance there, and then another potential rollover play, and then the bigger rollover. And you can even see the double there on the weekly. BNGO. You got the breakout. You're now, I put your support level at about 176 and your major support back at about 163. You got the breakout above here. Let's just see where your harmonics sit. You're right at the 37.5, so your next significant target is $2 on the continued run higher. So I don't have any, again, this is not one I trade, no PE. If you break back down below this 160 area, though, I'd watch for it could turn into another shake and bake and retest the lows. That would be the only thing. So you don't really want this lower support level to break. But other than that, it's just breaking out of this key trend, at least it closed above this. So this is the highest close since the 5th of May. And with this kind of market environment, I could see this still run more to the upside before a potential rollover play. But you know, you got to know where your stops are on this, and let's just see where the reverse harmonics takes us. Nothing there. So intermediate for a stop raise would be 186. And then you're looking at the 194 to $2. $2 is your major level. I have no idea if Ray Dalio is buying Netflix here. No idea. All right. Again, sorry. Comments stopped working in the live stream. I mean, they're working on YouTube, but they're not working with the other live streams feeding into it. So sorry about that. So we'll reconvene tomorrow morning. Again, I got to get this fixed. I don't know why it keeps knocking out. I got to, again, reach out to Ecamm. With that, thank you everybody for attending. I'll see if I can get this fixed. Hey, Coco. And I will chat with everyone tomorrow morning. Bye for now.